Hi, and welcome to the DM's Book Club, where we look at some Dungeons and Dragons and how we can put it into our role-playing campaigns. With me, as ever, is the fantastic host, creator, overlord that is Fiona.
That is my official title that I've got on my office door. Thank you very much. How are you, Hamilton?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. As I've described in the Discord already, but the last night, for the first time in my whole D&D playing career, I found out what happens when you put a bag of holding inside another bag of holding, completely by accident. All of our players know, we were all DMs, we've all played for 3 years, and none of us clocked that that we had these things. And it was one of those sessions where we had a really cool beginning, we were doing really well, and then it's like the ideal version versus reality. Reality was that an hour and a half fallout about how do we get out of the astral plane. It was absolutely fun. And
amazing.
And that's the thing, that's why I love role-playing games and I love D&D, is that you can feel like the coolest person in the world, but still have your own insecurities and your own flaws, and you're like, oh, we're idiots. But it was, really, really a lot of fun. So I'm still riding that high.
The astral plane yet, or are you still stuck there?
Yeah, no, we got out of there. We are level 17.
I was about to say you're level 17, so someone's got to have
someone does have plane our shift, but it was a bit like, we were a bit like, how did we not see this coming? But it's
also ruined two very good bags of holding.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you how much. Like, well, first of all, I'd upended.
That is an inventory lost, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it was scattered everywhere. We it was one of those things where it was just like, you know what? I'm glad it happened, because otherwise we were too cocky, too smug that we defeated this big bad, and then we're like, well, no, it's now on the astral plane. But yeah, we managed to get out of there. But yeah, one of those things where I absolutely love D&D for that reason and that collaborative. Yeah. What about you, Hamilton? Are you doing any games or anything?
I played
like that?
Curse of Strahd last night as well, and I'd missed it for last time because I was too busy, so I missed one session where we got out of the Durst house.
Finally.
Yes, but last night's session, I kind of turned up, and I had my jab the other day, so I've been feeling a bit rough. I'm feeling better today, but I had been feeling a bit like off, to be honest. It really hit me, the old Moderna. But so last night though, I was just kind of like, we were trying to fight these direwolves, and we realised there's like 20 direwolves now. Let's just run away. This isn't probably going to work for us. Even though we were doing quite, to be honest, I did quite well for once. Like comparatively, I couldn't position I was like, because the last few sessions I'd been like low on health and I had no armor, but now I had my armor back. I didn't have something sucking my strength scores, so they were at like zero, nothing. So I had that all back. I'd rested. I had 25 hit points. I was ready, to do some fighting. And we've got the advantage on flanking sort of thing. So I was just the party went in a group, and I just kind of went round the outside of the group, like circling. So they were like they gave me advantage wherever I went. So I was just like circling. I did an amazing divine smite kill, which was like, yeah, you're done.
Amazing.
And then realised that the half-orc's like dead. Let's get out of here. So, which is our cleric. So that's probably a bad move. So. And then I went to some farm, and I was like, why the fuck? I went in character, like, why are we doing, like, what are we doing? I have no idea what we're doing now. Because, like, we've been to some crazy house, we're in some random place, what the heck are we doing? And let's go see what this farm's about. I was like, it stinks of rotten dead people. Yeah, duh, like, no shit, why are we here? Like, literally the whole time, like, why are we here? Like, let's just burn it, okay? And saw some scarecrow eating a raven, and I was like, this is the worst version of Wizard of Oz I've ever seen.
Don't be silly, Toto. Scarecrows don't talk.
It's pleasant down that way, too.
And then, but we had fun. We had some nice RP where I was just basically talking to people going like, what is going on? And
very good.
But we got to Barovia. And I saw Castle Ravenloft. So I was like, we did that at the end. Saved some old lady from some ruffians, which I think must be a thing. I don't know if that's. I don't know what's a thing. I don't know if everyone gets these things. Okay. But I saw.
I have to keep mum at this.
Yeah. I'm not so sure about old Mother Moo or whatever her name is. Is that her name, Mother Moo? I don't know.
Oh, I know. Oh, now I know who you mean.
Yeah, she's selling pies, and no one's very keen about them. But then we saved her, and she gave us some free pies, so we're hungry.
Oh, good. Oh, well,
I'm not sure about eating them though. I'm going to see what happens to the wizard who's put on the eye patch. so he's already kind of screwed because he can't see.
But yeah, that sort of look of Castle Ravenclaw above Barovia is such a cool, iconic moment.
Well, I'm here. I feel like I'm now there, because before we were just like running around like headless chickens. Now I'm like, okay, we're here, but I don't quite know why I'm here. I've been told to come here, but I don't know. It's just some Strahd bloke, I guess, that that he's up there.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
Well, Hamilton,
Anyway,
as we've both had as we've both had really cool gaming experiences, but let's talk about a brand new gaming experience that both you and I are very excited to, I think, do at some point. I know you were planning on running something. I genuinely think I might do something similar at some point, because it's just so good. So, Hamilton, what are we talking about today? What is our topic?
Oh, our topic today is Strixhaven. Oh, look at that. That's definitely that's the Hydro 74 cover, isn't it?
It is.
I like that one.
Look at the shine. Again, I think all these alt covers are shiny, and it's the same on the back as well.
I really like that one. Yeah.
It is absolutely gorgeous, and I think, I don't know at the time of recording if they are in the UK, because again they got pushed back from shipping, but thankfully I was in the US and I rushed in and there was nobody in the store, and I was like, oh, I need this, and they were like, oh great, and I was like, thank you, and I left. That was my only time I got out in the US, was to get my alt cover of Strixhaven. But I will say, initial impressions, completely worth it. Absolutely. I guess, so why don't we start? So what, Hamilton, what is a Strixhaven?
What is a Strixhaven? What is Strixhaven? Yes. Well, I know that a Strix is a type of owl. I know that. So there's something, if you did, I don't know if that's a knowledge, but I just found that out. And Haven is a nice, no, it's a school. It's a magical school. It is also, so this is the thing I found out as well. So it's supposedly, it's seen as one of these Magic the Gathering meets D&D crossovers. So we've had Theros and Ravnica before, and now we've got Strixhaven. Now, what I found out was that Strixhaven only came into being in Magic the Gathering in April this year.
Yeah, this year. Yeah.
So it's pretty much not across. It's basically, it was made for both, I feel. Like,
I feel that as well. Like it clearly was like, well, we'll have this cool setting, but also we'll give it to all of our Wizard of the Coast products.
Yeah, exactly. Which is fair enough, because it's like, it's a magic school. Everyone loves Harry Potter. Everyone loves Harry Potter. I can't think of another good one off the top of my head.
I wrote some stuff down, like a Worst Witch was the other one, if you wanted like some sort of academy. The one I was talking to you off camera, but the Witcher, all that sort of thing. The Blur's Academy from Charlie Midnight and the Midnight for Charlie Bone series, the Red King, if you've ever read that. I didn't, because I had to search that up earlier. X-Men, that sort of thing, where essentially is a higher education facility for people who like the study of magic. I
guess Wheel of Time has it as well, the White Tower as well. Yeah, it's another one. So there are a few, but I mean the most famous of them all.
Most famous and possibly most obvious. Definitely, if you read through the whole book, you're like, there are definitely influences of Harry Potter in this. And again, it's that sort of thing. Obviously, when I think all these informations are very good, and you can take this into your own thing. Well, obviously, we don't, do make sure to, you support the art, maybe not the artist.
In this case. Yeah. Let's just not talk about it, and let's
not give us,
because we've got Strixhaven now, so we
have Strixhaven, so you can just always be like Strixhaven forever, I think, as well. So I guess for you, Hamilton, what were the key standouts of Strixhaven, the setting itself? What was the key things that you were like, oh, that's very interesting?
Well, I liked the different colleges. I thought they had a really good sort of balance of what the different, how they had different ideas behind them. I think even in that, the Necromantic College, I've forgotten which one's which. Winterbloom, that's it, of course. Even plays on that theme quite well. So I thought that was interesting. I think people will find all. So I should say which one they are. So there's Silverquill, Prismara, Winterbloom, Lorehold, and Quandrix. And I think each of them have a particular quality that I think someone will find an attraction to, I think, and each person can find. It's like personality quizzes, it's like one of those, isn't it? And I think people like that. It's like we talked about the factions of Sigil, and we've talked about factions in Waterdeep as well, but like I think it's a similar idea to that. You can take a philosophical or sort of academic view of your character and sort of hone in on that, if you will.
Yeah, I think what's cool about that, and we'll go back to the Unearthed Arcana briefly, which came out earlier this year, which talked about these colleges as well. I think what's cool about it is the when it sets up this sort of whole plane, essentially, Arcavios, I believe it's how to pronounce it. But it says you can put Strixhaven anywhere, which is always good with these things. You can put a city anywhere, you can put a college anywhere, essentially. But it talks about this idea of magic. Magic is abundant, and you can have, it talks about the weave and stuff like that, but in this plane, in Arcavios, there are things where the magic is so... I had this idea of this weave, but in certain places it is knotted and tangled, and I almost think like matted at this point. There are just bits of magic anyway, almost like a Van Gogh painting, I think. There's sort of multicoloured stuff, maybe even like an aurora in this plane, and where that is, you can see there are archways of stones and all that sort of thing, and that's what Strixhaven is. It's just one part of it is to study these magical phenomena and see what they mean and stuff like that. And you have a whole sort of lore about these 5 dragons that founded Strixhaven.
I love that. That's one of the things I really love about it.
I was going to say, you love a good dragon.
I love a good dragon, surprisingly, but I just like it as a way to bring it into the D&D lore, but also give it that D&D feel over the others we've mentioned. That sort of sense of like, okay, that gives it a D&D twist, which is relates it back to the fundamental thing that creates Dungeons and Dragons, and I think that's I really like that. So yeah.
I completely agree, and each of these dragons obviously each one founded a college based on its kinds of magic. So as you said, sort of Lore Hall is about like history and looking at the lore of things, which can cover a whole range of things. So if you have, and like this is the first thing I would maybe change or not improve, but if I was running this campaign and I wanted my players to be a part of this university, because it talks about in this book, as we said, there are sort of it's a campaign setting you can have where you take your characters all the way from level 1 all the way to level 10 throughout their years at this university. I think a session 0 should be they fill out a UCAS form for Strixhaven.
Oh, I fucking hated my UCAS form. So no, but yes, I do.
So,
I like it.
For our international listeners, a UCAS form is a university system here in the UK where you would apply, obviously with your grades and whatever, but also write a personal statement. And so I would love to do that, and that would be a bit of the like writing as a character and the background and stuff like that.
That's a really lovely idea. Okay, I'm stealing that when I do the stream version of this. Okay, stolen.
Exactly. That's
session 0 sorted.
It's less like you have to write it and then send it to your teacher and get horrible feedback for it. No, it is about like, I think that as a way to create your backstory perhaps, or have an idea of it, is write a personal statement of why you get into Strixhaven. And then on that, you could also tailor it saying that you know what you want to do, because obviously in your first year it's more of a foundational year where you because in Strixhaven itself there are sort of 6 campuses, sort of the main one in the middle, and then the 5 colleges around it, and then only in your second year again you get to sort of specialise, which happens at most UK universities. Certainly it happened at St Andrews for myself. So I quite like that you could always feel out and see your first sessions or first couple of sessions in that first year per se, and then be like, oh, actually I really want to do this college, or I want to do that college, or even take a couple of courses in each perhaps, but obviously having one primary one to see where you're going. So I thought that was quite good. Again, having that in the lore a little bit as well, just sort of like, and having that sort of set thing. So you have obviously the 5 colleges, you've got these 5 dragons that aren't around but could be around. There's a little paragraph that said like, if anything really bad happens, they're coming back. You don't want them to come back.
No, I see that as a bit like do you know the Waterdeep statues in Waterdeep? It kind of made me feel like if I was going to flavour it a bit, I might do something like that, sort of like the Harry Potter had like the relic sort of idea that they all had relics, but I kind of like this idea that maybe they're sort of they're just like stone statues or something somewhere, or they're just off in their sort of like horde retirement home. You know, we talked about our dragon retirement home a couple of months ago. I kind of, you know, sort of on the Costa del Sol for dragons, sort of, and then they just turn up when they need to.
That was quite cool. Yeah, maybe like an Avatar, the dragon statues where you talk through them, and they're like, oh, hang on,
exactly.
I'm coming.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And they appear. That'd be quite cool. And then for each college, you have 2 deans. And again, this comes right into the lore about it, which I think is very good. The whole point of Strixhaven, the study of magic itself, it believes the better way to understand something is to teach sort of almost polar opposite principles. So you have like order and chaos. I think it's art and perfection and expression, I think is Prismari. And as a result, you have then 2 deans for each of the colleges that embody those principles. And I think that's, again, another really cool role-playing idea that you, again, maybe a bit more prep on the DM side of it, but then you can sort of write down. And so when a player will ask for help from one of the deans, and if they go and visit 2 different deans, they're going to say 2 different things about the same question, which I really like, because that for me is the pinnacle of academic conversations I have. It's like, well, what should I do? Well, have you looked inside your heart? No, I need you to tell me so I can pass this exam.
No, that's a very good point, and yeah, I think that's the thing that they've done really well, which just kind of relates back to that wheel. I was going to talk about the wheel that they've got, but we can sort of kind of fits in with it. They've all got 2 colours of this magical spectrum from Magic the Gathering. I can bring up that wheel now, so we can have a look at it. Should I? Oh, I could even share that with you if you want to see that quickly.
Oh, yes, please. It's loading for me. I can see it. Hurrah!
There you go. So and those are the magical wheel of Magic the Gathering, which is what. And you were just saying. So, for example, Prismara or Prismari, I forget.
I think it's Prismari, and I will say this as well. There are a number of names in here. And again, my another fault I always have with Wizard of the Coast books. Please have a pronunciation guide.
Yes, exactly.
Certainly for some of the professors' names. There are very cool professors. I'm not going to pronounce any of them in this episode because I don't know how to. So,
yes, exactly.
So anyway, sorry.
It's fine. No, it's fine. But so Prismari have red and blue. So they have logic, technology, impulse, and chaos. So those are the 4 sort of key headers for that magical thing. And supposedly I'm not a Magic the Gathering player or fan, so I'm learning this by amassing information, not by actually playing it. So I'm coming from the outside. But from what I gather is the lore of Magic the Gathering generally, even though it's just about playing cards, is that actually it comes from manipulating the 2 magics together is always interesting, these 2 colours. And even, I don't know if that somehow, from what I don't know if that relates into decks as well or not, but it might be good that your decks have multiple colours. But I'm not so... But yeah, so that's it. And then like Silver Quill is black and white, so that's parasitism, which is selfishness, at the expense of others, and amorality. But white is morality and order. So you've got morality and the laws of man order, it says there. So like, let's say, well, it's more morality, isn't it? Morality and sort of justice. And then, but also selfishness and amorality. So you've got this complete dichotomy, as we were saying. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And I'd say this as well. What's interesting with that, and certainly with Witherbloom as well, because again, from my growing up reading the Harry Potter books, instantly you maybe attribute certain alignments to certain colleges, and instantly I think people would say Witherbloom, Slytherin must be evil, and I think what they do, especially for Witherbloom, it's very interesting. The little descriptions for each of the colleges, it talks about this life and death thing, about using that growth and decay as their opposition principles, and I think like it's just really fascinating, that sort of thing, because that all these colleges, they're not inherently good or evil. They're just, this is the way we study magic. And I think they've written, again, I know I always say this, but I think there's been some cracking writing about writing stuff that's neutrally and not necessarily invoking feelings of like, well, this is the Gryffindor, we're very loyal and we're great with our friends, to the, we're ambitious and cunning, we're the Slytherins, that sort of thing. So I think it's any of these colleges doesn't necessarily dictate what you as a player or as a character
needs to be. No. And
so I think that's very possible.
people have even taken those even from the Harry Potter and taking them to the characters that have been portrayed as the Slytherins. There are good Slytherins in the end, as well. Like
Yes,
that's the thing.
absolutely.
It's just but as you said again, talking about the dichotomy of Witherbloom, they've got the selfishness of it at the expense of others and amorality, but they've also got interdependence, which is like natural survival, knowing you need to be dependent upon others, and therefore there's a dichotomy there. And then instinct, I guess, is something different, but it does already put that in there as two halves of that coin. So it's sort of it's interesting. I think it was an interesting way of balancing it. Obviously fits it in with the Magic the Gathering, but I think it's a nice new. I always I said this every time we've done these in stories. Like every time you can add a new layer to your character, with some sort of we all like sort of diagrams and stuff like that. That's not chaotic evil and not that sort of standard alignment system, but something that it is much more personal and and personal interpretation can be dealt. Selfishness at the expense of others doesn't necessarily mean you're necessarily evil or whatever that means.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You can take that in so many different ways, and an impulse can be something completely different. You could take that as gut feelings, or you could take that as no thought. That it could be both ways.
Irrational.
It could be completely irrational. And so I don't know. I really like this edition, is all I'm saying.
I absolutely agree. I'm going to come out of that watching so I can see you properly. Stop watching. There you are. Right. I think that's a great, and like I said, certainly the first chapter I think is a really good sort of, this is what life is like at a university.
Yes.
I think what is very good, it definitely, it reminded me of my days back at the university, which I appreciate is a very old woman thing of saying, oh, back in my day this, but talking about, say, the biblioplex.
Yes.
So this big library in the centre, and I was like, I spent so much time at my library.
It's the map,
Bring up.
I've got the map up.
And I know we'll always say this. The maps are beautiful, and I love how they're not necessarily
top down.
Top down. Yeah, exactly. They are beautiful, almost like promotional posters. Like, hey, come to Strixhaven.
It's much more like wayfinding. Maps that you get at universities or any sort of or it's this one. And again, maybe they're influenced a little bit by their Witchlight Carnival, which is very much both like a Disney map. When you go to that sort of, again, wayfinding sort of way of doing things. So I love it. Yeah,
I completely agree. Yeah, and so you have this library, you have the Fire Jolt Cafe
where you can where you can work, which is people have to do jobs when you're at university to pay your way, and that's
and we'll definitely come on to the jobs in a second. And then you have a tavern, which its description of it reminded me of in St Andrews. There's a place called the Waypack, which I used to spend half my time I spent in the library and half the time I spent it in the Waypack because they had the best nachos. So instantly, these descriptions of stuff, I could easily map it onto my own experiences. And I think that, again, anything like that's a good starting point for a DM. Even if you haven't been to university, I appreciate this is obviously aimed at higher education, that sort of thing. You don't have to. Any sort of thing that you might have a really nice local cafe yourself, or a pub, or any sort of place that you hang out, and you can use those feelings to
office campus. Even if you work in out of town offices where you have those sort of cafe places and stuff like that, which I've moved into one recently with my office, so I'm very much up on it. It's very similar. There's the Wild Herb, which is what we've got in our local one, and it's sort of everyone goes there less now. Everyone goes there, but
less now. But exactly that's such a good point. And so you have that obviously in the centre, and each of the colleges around the thing, and they're all again very flavoursome in terms of their environment and stuff. And the one I want to point out now, I will say, and this is where the Unearthed Arcana comes in. So when we did the original Unearthed Arcana way back when it came out, obviously very, very exciting. What's interesting is that what came out was subclasses, and these were sort of indicated for each individual, so for wizards, for bards, for spellcasters. Yeah. Now these colleges are open to anyone because they're all background feats, and you get similar sort of things. You don't get, for example, Lawhold's subclass was something about having an ancient companion where you would get them with you and then you would ask them questions and then they would come around with you and it'd be like a living statue. Again, a really cool idea, but it seemed a bit overkill when you're level 3. Yeah. Whereas now it's sort of here's these general backgrounds you can have.
Try and get those up, actually, if I can see those.
Yeah, go for it. And so you get some extra spells and stuff like that. So and I think that's the key thing is that, and it makes it very clear, again, back in the lore, is that this is a place that the multiverse can come to. You're going to have your dryad students. You're going to have treants. There is a professor that is a brown bear. Doesn't matter what race you are. I think you can easily use the custom lineage.
Anything.
Thing.
I don't even think that is like this. Is the great thing about modern D&D. That's just not even a conversation anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's just that's it. It just doesn't even need to be.
And it's so beautifully written in this thing, saying, "Yeah, of course we're going to have all these people from there. So you're going to see these kinds of students." And I just was like, "This is actually so cool," because you can have almost like your like a Monsters University type thing where there's always different people come here to learn the same thing. So it was quite actually heartwarming reading about that.
Yeah. I think what's interesting to say about these backgrounds, and I think one thing is when you look, the two things I liked about it, and one thing that I thought you've got to be careful with it, is that the two things I like is yeah, I love giving more stuff to players again, like because it's great that you now get some additional spells. And you've got more to play with. You've got more stuff. You've got more stuff that, again, that fits with what I was saying earlier about. You've got more of a character quality you can add to your sort of personality, but you've also got more stuff that you can do in game because of it, which is great. And that relates to your sort of again alternative alignment for a better term. You know, your sort of what you've chosen is more of your background. The only caveat is these are OP, so be careful if you are not playing a Strixhaven campaign. Either give something more to your other characters who don't choose this background. If someone wants to choose this as a background fee, I would suggest background for your character. I suggest giving them something additional to others who don't, because I don't think I listened to someone talking about it and saying, oh, you should not use them, but I actually love them so much that use them, but now this gives me now the opportunity to feel like I can write backgrounds for people that are much heavier weighted. Do you know what I mean? And I'm so up for that, because I made some backgrounds a while ago for DM's Guild, and I put them out for playtesting, and people came back to me saying, these are OP, you're giving too much away. And now I'm like, I'm going to go back and rewrite those, because this has now given me the opportunity, because there's an RAW, a raw version of it, which says you can add spell lists to backgrounds. And the feat as well, particularly additionally, you know, so I'm up for that. One more thing, it's nice that everyone gets spells, because even if you're a barbarian, you're a monk or a rogue that's not an arcane trickster, everyone at this university has a innate magical being part of them, which I think is great as well.
Yeah,
that's it.
And but you're so true, and it gives the example of the barbarian, like the certain subclass that goes down, like say it's the ancestral guardians one, where it's like, well, this makes sense if you were going to law hall, for example, because then that's talking about history and stuff. So I think it gives you that power back to the players, saying like, you want the subclass, how does it fit in with your studies? And like, what makes you want to come study here? And I would agree. I think for me, I would definitely insist that either all the players have Strixhaven backgrounds or none of them do, because I think this, again, it's that sort of thing. Is like, what kind of game do you want to play? I feel like this would be really cool to play it all the way through, so like these adventures that are in here, and then continue on afterwards as what they get. You know, when you've graduated, this is what the real world is like. You're no longer in the safe confines of the student library. You're now out on your arse trying to be an adventurer, and it's not as nice as you think it is. And I think that'd be a really cool.
That's a great arc, and that is an interesting. And even if you just took that as your campaign starting, like you've already, like, even you
level 10.
You're level 10. This is where you start, and you've just been at university and had a nice time, and now here's the real world.
Here's the real world. It's not as nice.
It's not as fun.
It's not as fun. But the final thing I wanted to sort of say before we went on really is that because I had a read up and the sort of reviews of Strixhaven, and most people said, again, they enjoyed it for the source book element of it, but they felt that the adventures itself were lacking a little bit, because it was just a little bit maybe not finished in places, or is a bit thin in places. And I feel, as someone who has read them, sort of an overview of them, I think they're a good starting point, because as you sort of mentioned, they have additional things like exams, extracurricular activities, jobs and stuff, which are all optional rules, but significantly less fights, like designated, this is going to be a fight, this is going to be a fight, like compared to say Horde of the Dragon Queen or earlier modules, which were all fight based. And one thing I said in my things for review of the year, I wanted to see what what they would add to an adventure that was, if they're taking out combat, what are they putting in? And I think these rules and these sort of things make sense. You are an adventurer who's in a magic school, you have to study, but there's an adventure going on, but you still have to do these other things as well. Now, that might not be one for everyone, but I think it works really well, especially if you are enjoying books like Harry Potter, like Worst Witch and stuff like that. There are things going on, and it's like juggling that life and stuff like that. We're all like that.
Well, that's the beauty of, like, as you said, Harry Potter, but even like Spider-Man, for example, is another good example of that, sort of like giving that the teenage superhero who has to also be a teenager doing school, and getting good grades. And I think that's an interesting, as you said, it's a really interesting juxtaposition. There's a better word than being fancy than that, but there's a better contrast, isn't it, that you've got to play off, and a conflict you've got to deal with.
I mean, a great example, if it's not necessarily university based or anything like that, is literally for me, like coming home from Christmas, suddenly having to work to a different schedule, because obviously it's like, well, you're home now, it's a different sort of rule set per se, let's go do this and this, and you're like, but I've got plans. You're like, no, you don't. And you're having to balance that as well. Like, and I'm sure everyone's had that feeling when you go to stay with somebody, whether it's a relative or a friend, but you have to operate to their sort of like, well, we're going to go do this, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's that sort of thing, I've got to balance things now, because especially when you're older, you're like, but I have work, I want to
also like recordings. Running a D&D stream and having a job. Maybe. It's like, maybe so, not bringing too much of my own self to this table, but so that's
no, I think we're all felt seen at this
exactly
point. Just moving on briefly, I want to talk about Owlin. So the race that has now been formalised in the Strixhaven. So we've seen Owlin before. They were in the Folk of the Feywild Unearthed Arcana, which got released earlier this year, along with the original sort of rabbit folk, so Heragon, fairies, etc. This is the Owl folk redone. And I have to say, thank God. I am so glad it's been redone, because in the Folk of the Feywild, they were so OP. They had magical sight. They could, if they fell, they could still hover in the air due to a dexterity check, which you'd think, of course, they're bloody owls, they're going to succeed in that. They've taken those away, so I feel a lot better. So, like you said, you're not going to turn around to your owl in the party and go, is there any magical traps? And they're going to go, shrug. Yeah. I don't know.
It was I actually hadn't checked out at the time. I hadn't looked at that but you talked about it earlier, and I was like, I did read it then to go, they got a fly speed, so if I'm in a game with Fiona, I can cross them off the list, because that's them out. But they only got 30 feet fly speed, unlike Aarakocras, which I think got 50 feet, so
they're a ridiculous amount.
And you said that the dark vision's 120 feet, which is again,
now it is.
Now it is.
God.
But I also think, as I said to you, they're owls. They can see for miles, right? They're like hawks, right? They see everywhere. And also, you should basically, I just feel 120 feet is doing a disservice to owl folk. That was all. but yes, no, it makes sense in D&D, and I think.
I think
they also get the 3 ability scores +1 as well. It's the only other difference. Unlike the other Tasha's rule, which is 2 +2 to 1 and +1 to 1, you can +1 to 3, which I think is a bit more like humans, isn't it, as well, who get +1 to everything.
Yeah, there's definitely. I think that's a rule that's come in through all of them. Because I recently created a gem dragonborn for something, and you could choose.
You can choose to add +1 to each 3 of them.
So I think that's an old thing. But I think that's it's sort of just says here it is, rather than like, oh, would you want to do this or something. But I do think like. I think again, it's that sort of thing. In the setting, Owlin makes sense in a way, because there's lots more Owlin representations in terms of deans and professors and stuff. There's some great portraits of them in here as well. So I can't remember which professor and which college it is, so you don't need to worry about it. But there's definitely one that looks like it's just turned around like in a. Again, I like the idea that these are all picture days, and it's just like an owl just like like just come in from a class. Maybe that's the other thing I'd introduce. Is like maybe we'll have people have to dress up for picture day, and for a session we have to take pictures. and have them on their matriculation IDs and all that sort of thing.
Oh, that'd be really cool. Yeah, do like school. Yeah. Oh, and do like a school book, like what they call
a yearbook.
Yearbook.
Yeah.
That's the word. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I will say that reading through this whole book.
Did you say matriculation day?
Matriculation.
What does that mean?
I feel this is a St Andrew's thing, but when you matriculate, you get your card and stuff at the beginning.
Right. I didn't know that was the name of the day. That's a good. I like a new word. I like a good new word.
Matriculated.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
But yeah. So I think. For me, I'm not a DM that makes lots of props or anything like that. For this, I see so many opportunities to make
report
stuff
cards, as you said. Like,
the report cards. Well, we'll come to exams next, but I just like the idea. It's like, okay, again, happy to check with your players because sometimes they're like, I just want to play a game.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is something where you could be very crafty and do something else. If people are like, I'm not feeling running a game tonight, or I'm not feeling it, to say, okay, let's do something else. Let's do like a crafts thing. Let's do a taskmaster. Okay, you've woken up late on photo day. You have 2 minutes to get dressed.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
And then you see them rush around the room. Again, I'm assuming it's online rather than in person. But again, you could have it like later on in the third adventure, it's the masquerade ball.
Yeah.
And you could be like, hey, this tonight's session, we're going to do the ball. Let's dress up for it. Let's make an actual effort. That'd be so cool. Yeah. So
awesome.
You can tell I saw all these opportunities going, oh, we could do more than just role-playing games. So.
That's really good. I like that. I like all of those ideas. I think that is something that does come out with it, and I think that's this particular. Like, I've talked about different ideas I've had for different sort of games that you could play, but I think what with Well Beyond the Witchlight did as well as this, both these feel very similar in that sense of having a different way of playing. Make you want, like, the carnival makes you want to do more things, doesn't it? It makes you want to have lots of carnival games, which they give you, and even the companion one that we looked at, I've forgotten, that we did. Brief interlude. We were talking about Owlin and that you will accept flying. Basically, is that what you're saying?
I think yes.
I'm pushing you on it.
You're pushing on it, and I'm going to give you a straight answer, officer. I think so. I think it again makes sense, and I think because me as a GM, and again, it's more me than anything else. I can actually see actual representations of owls that aren't like, I guess because they're not, I don't see them as big fighters and stuff like that. Presumably you would do towards the end of the campaign arc in Strixhaven, but they're not, we're going to fly around and we're going to just like,
I love how the image I've got up right now is of spell slinging owls fighting, but yes, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I guess because it's later on do you get these sort of things, and I think in our Discord, I can't remember who it was now, so apologies, because they were saying that wasn't sure how much you could do in a campus, and it turns out I think you can do quite a lot of stuff in a campus. It's not necessarily fighting. Like I said, you've got dueling, you've got extracurricular activities, you've got jobs, and you have exams. So
and we didn't even talk about the sport either.
What Mage Tower?
Yes.
Yeah, but we can quickly talk about Mage Tower. Yeah. This is basically in your second year. This is what the second year sort of adventure is about. This sort of Mage Tower, this big tournament, almost like I would say a Tri-Wizard tournament, but about one game, about you putting a team together, a crack team, to basically do like a capture the flag type thing with your other college's mascots, essentially, and stealing them from there. It sounds bloody fun, and again, I can imagine that being a proper miniatures thing where you're all together trying to, almost like Blood Bowl, I think, maybe that sort of thing, where you're just rolling up. I just think that anything like that, which is more tactile or more sort of thinking about the books rather than just rolling dice, I think always just adds something to it. So I did like that idea of having a sport that everyone could be good at.
I totally agree. And I tried to make a capture the flag game in D&D in our grand finale in season 1, so of Dragon's Duel, and it's not as good as this. And I knew that. It was very hard to make work because I was trying to make it so that two teams of the same people playing not in this, like, online at the same time, trying them not to see what the others are doing, which was quite difficult and hard to manage at the same time. But I think the game itself was actually quite fun, and I love those more, not PvP, but those sort of, like, you could make it PvP, but more just sort of tactical games, and you said miniatures, it sort of does bring to mind exactly. Blood Bowl was a good shout as well. Yeah, but that again, PvP, so it goes on to this sort of thing with relationships. Now I would say this, when I say relationships, there's not necessarily
I would say, not an in-game benefit per se to having the relationships rule. So essentially what it means is that you can, at the beginning of session 0, or whenever you do a campaign of Strixhaven, you have to pick a friend and a rival, and they get points, essentially. And when you're working at jobs or extracurricular activities, there'll be some people there that you can get a relationship point in. And for a friend, it's 2 points. For a rival, it's minus 2 points. And then there's the option to have a beloved. You get an extra point into your friend. And I guess it feels like it's a more role play thing, and maybe it's just a way to track consent, I would say, because not everyone wants to have relationships with NPCs. And when I say relationships at this point, it doesn't have to be partners. It could be just like platonic love or something. And it makes a big section about that. So I think it's maybe just an easier way to track, or make it obvious to everyone in the open that this person feels this about you, or this, these people feel like this about you, through tactile things. I don't know about it myself, because I said there's not an in-game benefit per se. It's just a nice way to track things, and maybe like, these are clearly going to be your rivals throughout your school years, or these are going to be your friends, and you can switch points and lose them as well. And I don't know, for me, I would have it more as a conversation with my players, but that's just the sort of DM I am. I don't mind having those frank going, okay, let's talk about consent, let's talk about what are people's barriers and stuff, because I can imagine people going, oh, do we have to? Because having friendships isn't necessarily a points game.
Really?
Like, well, I've been playing it.
I've
wrong
got your
all the time.
scorecard right here.
Oh no!
No.
Oh no! But I guess because you have friendships that are, you don't speak to each other for a couple of months, and then you get back and you've not really left it, or that I in real life. So I guess for me, the way I don't necessarily track them as like they're my best friends or they're this or something. I've never tracked it like that. Like, and especially now in the age of the internet, where you can have friends all around the world at different times and stuff. I find that's a different kind of friendship to ones you were in school with and stuff.
It's a bit Simsy, isn't it? That's kind of what it makes me think of. It's that Sims, like, you move up. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I played or watched that game, but the sort of, you do get points, don't you, on your relationships, I remember, and that's a very similar thing. But it calls back to what we were talking about for the future, and when we were talking about Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and all these, and the future, the review of D&D. What are those other systems for non-combat point scoring, or whatever that means? How do we, and this is one of those examples that they're trying, and I think, and this has got more we're about to talk about, but at the moment I've had up, since we talked about this, the Strixhaven Memories card, that sort of report card thing, and it has those, relationship tracker, the extracurricular activities, jobs, your report cards for the year, all these more ways of gaining points, or gaining, gamification of life, which is what role playing is in a sense, because you feel like not that all role playing has to have leveling up, but it allows that D&D. You come to D&D for numbers and scores and ability points and to a certain extent, and this allows you to have that gamification if you so wish, isn't it? Really, which is. Yep,
I completely agree. And then going on to, I think, if we go on to the exams part next, because I think that's the more interesting thing about Strixhaven. Obviously, the extracurricular job is also interesting, but this is where each year you are in Strixhaven, you have a set of exams that you must pass. And if you pass them, you gain an extra D4, these student dice, that you can add to an ability check, which is related to that exam. So I think early on there's an exam in your first year about Slard, and if you get, and it tells you like, this is the DC, you can study for it, you can pull an all-nighter, which I think is hilarious.
As someone who did an architecture degree, that was I'm very much aware of pulling an all-nighter. Oh my gosh, yeah. Sitting in the print room at 2:00 in the morning whilst I'm waiting for the printer to work and it's not working, and then staying up all night because you're like, it's 6:00 now, it's finished work. I've got my review, my vocal review in 2 hours. Let's just stay up. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh, so horrible.
I think I only ever did one all-nighter.
Really?
And I regretted it. Oh, yeah. I'm someone who really loves their sleep. But I also... I know.
University, it went right out the window.
Maybe, I don't know. I think I missed out on a lot of other things because I slept. I don't know.
Well, I missed out on a lot of things because I was in the studio rather than because I would be in the studio when my friends going, oh, I'm going in the pub, and then they message me going, I'm out of the pub now, come and join us. I'm like, I'm still in the studio. How cool am I? Yeah. Oh, it's fine. Don't weep for me. Don't weep for me.
But what I think, so obviously in your first year you can do an exam on the slard. I think there's one on owl folk or something like that. Again, what I would do if I had the time as a DM, I would make an actual quiz, and then I would test the players, like, because I think it gives you in the slard one, it goes like, oh, you can have multiple choice of like red, green, death slard, all that sort of thing, and you could be like, which one of these slards has can produce this kind of egg or something like that, like I can't remember off the top of my head, and then do a quiz and see what the players get. You know,
I think as much as I had in a session 0 the other day, so you give me homework. Like when I was just saying, like, why don't you read up on, because one of the characters is going to be a member of Sigil, so obviously because I love it. And anyway, I said, so why don't you read up on like one of the factions and why don't you choose one that you think would work for you? And they go, oh, I've got homework. I was thinking exactly what you said. I was like, well, now you've really got homework, because I want you to come into next week and I want you to do a test on Slard.
I want you to do a test. Yeah, why not?
I'm as a DM and as a player, I'd be so up for it. But I know some players will look at me going, "Okay, Hamilton, yeah, fine, I'll fail then." That's all.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and of course there's rules for cheating as well if you're going to be that sort of thing. And it's a nice little system. I quite like it. And again, it's just that extra thing where you
max out deception as a rogue and just go for it. Yeah.
Why not? Exactly. So I just thought they're really cool. I will say there is a slight spoiler on that Strixhaven memory card, because you only have one exam in the final year. I don't know why, but you only have one. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a bit unfortunate that's obvious from the set.
Yeah. Why is it actually? I just noticed that. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, because essentially, if you let's say your final year is a bit like the Deathly Hallows, I'll put it to you like that.
Yeah, no, but it says year 4, no time. That's it, isn't it? That's what it says.
They cancel pretty much all the exams.
They could have just put them on there, and then just you could cross them out or something. That would make so much more sense.
I think again, maybe that would be my thing, was that you'd still have them, but yeah, it was one of those things. I was like, oh, well, you've spoilt it a little bit there, but. Anyway, again, up to you as a DM to think about that. Cool. And then finally, very quickly, the extracurricular and jobs. So as we all know, as students, we like our things. We like hobbies and stuff. So there's a vast array of extracurricular activities which you can gain. If you gain a relationship point and a student die for certain things. And there's stuff like, obviously you've got your dragon chess ones. You've got your live role-playing ones, which I thought was quite funny. The Iron Lifters Club, where you're sort of like gym-wise and stuff.
I thought they were cool. I think the one that spoke to me was just working as the coffee person at the Fire Jolt Cafe. Just kind of felt like a barista. Like I was like, yeah, that feels just about right. Doesn't it? Exactly.
Yeah, the cool thing with the jobs one as well, you get a wage and all that sort of thing, but it could be a role-playing moment in itself where if you switch jobs or you're fired from a job, that's another thing you can do. And again, they've got all these names, and they've got like a little like a collection of characters that you are a part of these clubs or in these jobs as well, and like there's an archivist, all that sort of thing. So
there needs to be a book club, doesn't it? Really.
I think there needs to be a live action role play book club.
Yes, a Dungeons and Dragons club, even, or maybe or whatever it could be.
Maybe like a podcasting club or
AV club, yeah.
Well,
exactly.
AV club, the joke was always a witch stream, perhaps.
Or like a campus. Is there a campus radio? I don't remember seeing campus radio. Was there?
Oh, I don't know. Actually, there's the Strixhaven Star. There's a Strixhaven Star, which is the newspaper. But that's not the radio.
Yeah, because they can make a radio station. I love that.
Well, they've clearly missed out on that. Yeah, a radio station and some sort of like magical broadcasting thing.
Yeah, you could broadcast stuff like through just like from, I don't know, some sort of you could make up some magical system, or like a mechanical sort of gramophone-esque sort of thing that just kind of travels them, sends it, like records it on a little needle, and that runs along like a telegram that records on another needle that plays it over a gramophone or something.
There you go. And so easily you can make up your own and have the different sort of student dice, and probably pick one of the students in on that as well.
And a battle of the bards could happen. Sorry, I was just thinking of more things.
But there you go. And I think that's the thing. Like I said, some of the criticisms I have seen against Strixhaven, that's like, it's a bit patchy in places, and I'm like, I agree. but we've just found places where we can put our own stuff in. And I think that's the whole point of a good source book, is to have these ideas where you jump off. And I think the campaign itself, if you were going to play it through, I think it'd be really interesting. I would be keen to see what it would be like to play the whole thing, and then what the players found as a result. Because again, you are contained in a little bit, but at the same time, say Dungeon of the Mad Mage is 20 levels of a dungeon.
Sorry, it's not my favourite.
Thing, but no, it's not great. But that's the thing.
Such a shame.
You can do a lot more with this, and jump off it. And if you're into that sort of thing, if you're into doing higher education, if you want to build that community where it's not fun, and lots of RPG games are like that now. They're not necessarily going, you go and fight the monster. You learn. You just live someone else's life, which could easily be studying for a degree. So,
well, that's the thing, and I think there's again, going back to The Sims, there's a big movement, and I think people enjoy that part of RPG. Sometimes there's a lot of people who love the downtime parts of it. When I played Waterdeep Dragon, I loved the city aspect of it, that sort of just being in a city and just living some sort of life. And some people got really into owning the tavern and the bits that happened in the tavern, which is very Sims again. So I think I think this just adds another level to it, which I think people just enjoy experiencing a different life and having fun with it. And as we said, all the extra little bits you can add to that, like having the Battle of the Bards or having the Freshers Week, where's the Freshers Week sort of thing. There's
agreed.
Wheatus needs to turn up and sing Teenage Dirtbag at the beginning of that, right? Like they did at everyone's.
Absolutely. All of this is really good. I think the idea of the rivals, having something that I know it's versus them is always prevalent with any school stuff. I think my only thing
was
the
mascots and stuff. Yeah, having your mascots.
The mascots. Oh my god. I love that. That this, your mission is to go retrieve the mascot or something like that.
Yeah.
I guess my only thing would be that going back to the relationships very quickly is obviously you've got friends, beloved, and then you just have rivals. You don't have enemies. And I wondered maybe that's too far for some people, but
maybe mortal enemy.
Well, I guess for me, again, no big spoilers, but obviously you discover at the end of all these 4 adventures, there is someone behind it. I would love it if the enemies, it's almost like a Draco Malfoy moment where they realise that they've got too far gone or all that sort of thing. But again, maybe that's just me on that point, because it just seems like the levels are a bit different. But you know what? Overall,
you can add really it, as you said, as well. You can just add that. That's the thing. That's the magic, isn't it? I think
the magic. That's the beauty of it.
No, that's true. Oh, there was one thing I was going to say. Oh, it's gone right out of my head.
Oh no!
Oh no! I had a fun idea. I've forgotten it now. Oh bugger! Go on, finish it then. I'm sorry. I've lost it. It'll come back to me. So, I'll message it in the chat or something.
Yeah, you'll be like. I will say, I think if you are looking for a different way of running Dungeons and Dragons, that's not about Dungeons or Dragons, but there's a bit of Dragons, I would say, but it's something different. Strixhaven has that. I definitely would recommend anyone who's not so sure to run the first adventure, I think, because I think there's enough there to keep it interesting. I think, with all these extra rules and stuff, give it a go. I think without the extra rules, I don't know what it would be. I would definitely feel it would be a little lackluster. But I think with all these things, it's given me so many ideas to be like, I can create props, I can create things. And that might not be for you as a dungeon master, but the fact that I get excited about the fact, I'm like, oh, I want to do a picture day, I want to do this. And it's those sort of things where you remember those after the fact. You always remember, you never guess what so-and-so did at our last D&D. You never forget the bag of holding within a bag of holding.
Exactly, yeah. No, it's the weird, wacky things that are going to be fun. And
there are things like the Secret Cinema. That's obviously, if you've ever been, it's been a few years since I've been, but you dress up for those. You are in character and stuff like that. So why not give it a go? You're all going to be on the same level, even if you're all looking shit in like newspaper hats or something.
Totally. I'm totally up for it. I think Well, when I do my Mean Girls Strixhaven campaign,
that is so fetch. Gretchen, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Which I have to do. I like it's or like 4-parter. I think it has to be a 4-parter. I know exactly. I've got more. What reading it through, I was like, I know exactly what college the main Mean Girls are going to be in. I'm like, I know which one they're going to be in, and then, but it's just like, and you can have so much fun. It's so like you just opens up the door, as with all good source books do, is give you enough really fun stuff, new things to play with, and then opens up.
Exactly.
Has such a good concept that you can just like run with it because of all the things that are already out there and the things that you've got in your brain. Even though it is equal part source book, equal part adventure module, which it is. But I don't think it needed any more source book. I think I have heard a lot of people complaining that it's like, well, it's only got one race and it's only really got feats and stuff for itself. But actually, we've got enough already, and there's enough homebrew out there of those sorts of things. To be honest, that it really is just something very particular. But then that allows you. I'm going against a lot of. I've said that I'm going against a bit what I said on other things, but I think this one didn't need as much additional stuff. I think it's already got enough good grounding. So yeah, no, I love it.
I think so. I agree with that. I think it's like it has what you need. Like those, I've said this already, but the 4 adventures, it just it's one after another. You don't have to do them in order. You could just do the final one, and then that's that. And I think you can easily change things around. Like I said to you, like again, no spoilers. I will say, I think the villain is a bit silly. As I told Hamilton off the scene, like who it was and all that sort of thing. Like I do think it's a little bit after we had a whole thing about villains and stuff. But you could make it as horrible and as evil as possible, because the idea at the end is that you are the heroes of Strixhaven. You have to save your university, the place you have lived. And just as you would be as adventurers saving your hometown or the Waterdeep or anything like that. So I think that's the only thing I'd say is like making the ending as important to the players as possible. So maybe that's the whole point with these previous adventures, is to tie those. Here are your beloved. Here are your friends and deans that are at the whim of this villain. So I know I've said this before, but the what's cool about all the adventures, if you play them in order, is that there are little hints that you could easily match up. So it's one of those things where if you're playing this over a course of, say, a year, 2 years, and you get to the end, you go, oh, and you make those connections going, oh, it is this person because this happened in our first bit, and then this, which is always a delight as a player. I always enjoy that, making those connections, even if I feel really stupid afterwards. But yeah, I think it's that. I hope this does well. I hope to see streams of it. Because I mean, I love the idea of a Mean Girls one shot. But I'd love to see an actual campaign of it, because I think we've got stuff like Dimension 20, which is, I think it's Fantasy High. I think it's called. I can't remember, where it's all that sort of thing, and people do like that. People do like the role playing at university and stuff. I really hope this comes. And we see more
comes out, I mean, if I had the time, I would. Like, this is the thing. If I had more time, I would definitely be doing a stream of this, because it's so good, and it's.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to say to the DMs out there who listen to this or watch this, put down your Curse of Strahd books. There's tons of Curse of Strahd out there. We both know this.
Yes.
Run a Strixhaven.
Yes, run a Strix. I feel, we talked about this, like, want to know what the most streamed things, and I think we're going to look at potentially some D&D statistics potentially next week, maybe, I don't know, or something. But that's something that I'd really like to see at the end of 2022, because we're going to have quite a big year anyway, because we're now in 2022. We are existing in 2022 when this is live. When this is live, not actually physically now. But there's a lot to come out, so I can't really make a good judgment. But is this going to stand the test of time and be the Curse of Strahd for 2022? Because I think Curse of Strahd was 2020, 2021-ish, wasn't it? So I think
with the revisited stuff come out,
exactly.
But we've got the Call of the Neverdeep coming out. We've got two settings coming out as well.
And which we think one is Spelljammer. So
so that might take over.
I already know of one Spelljammer that's coming out soon. I do know. I think that's out. I think that is out. I don't know if I can say, because I don't know if people have released it, but I know someone is doing a Spelljammer thing soon. So that, but pre-booking it before it comes out. So that should be quite interesting. So I feel there's already a tide. There's already a tide in that direction.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was Strixhaven.
Well, that was Strixhaven. I think this is my favourite book currently. I've enjoyed the others, but there's just something about it that maybe it's just that time of year. It's
I really like
back to university. I don't know.
I really like the Witchlight, but with it, I think I enjoyed more when we were doing, like, making the campaign our own, like, areas of the Feywild, and the source booky nature of the other the Feywild companion, and there were some fun things in it, but it was like this one, I'm like, I want this.
Maybe that will be the new thing going forward, is that it is a source book, but with a bigger campaign, rather than just the introduction section that we have with with the Domains of Dread,
Yes.
Van Richten, because all that sort of thing. Because we've sort of spoken about it before. I'd love to see a Domains of Delight source book come out,
Yes.
even though we've already got our little supplement to make our own. I think it'd be really cool to see what other people's ideas of that.
I feel like it's a good mix, and I think like I don't know, things like Fizzband is a funny one because that's quite particularly about a type of animal, and would that needed a campaign? I don't think it did, but
No.
but I do agree that it'd be nice that a source book that's like 50-50, and if that is a campaign or a really good series of adventures, like a more Candlekeep,
or even just Candlekeep has like have adventure hooks and stuff like that.
or the Tal'Dorei one that we keep going back to as a really nice links to having lots of adventure hooks, but a source book with lots and lots of different adventure hooks, which is quite fun.
Agreed. Well, of course, and we've got, like I said, Call of the Neverdeep, but also the Tal'Dorei Extandria Revisited, I think.
Yeah, Reborn. That's it. Yeah.
Reborn.
Tal'Dorei
So it was
Reborn,
we're like, ooh, it's just so much. Anyway, Hamilton.
Okay.
What are you up to?
What am I up to?
What's going on?
What's going on? Well, basically, we are having. When is this? When is this coming out? I think. I made a schedule.
Early January.
I did make a schedule. I'm gonna quickly check it now.
Go for it.
Let's have a look. You can find this. You can find this by going to twitch.tv/dragons_jewel, where you're probably watching this right now, and you'll see that when you go there, our actual schedule is like a video. Can you believe it? I made a video of our schedule.
That's gorgeous.
How
it
cool
looks
is that?
so beautiful.
So
Very cool.
this should be live on the 6th. This should be the 6th of January. It should be the 6th of January. And on the 8th of January, on Saturday, 8th of January, the session 0 of Dragon's Duel Season 3, where we made our characters before Christmas. We are going to be talking about their background. So what we did is we got everyone to go away and make a standard background, like as into a level 1 for a level 1 to 3 character, like you would. And then we talk about, I've given them these better backstories cards to like play off to help them like come up with ideas. But then we spend a bit of time, how do we get them from a level 3 character background and build that all the way as if they were like a level 20 character, because the intro to season 3 is that they are super characters, super fighting the big bad evil guy or girl, sorry, but it is a guy in this case, Caraptus, but the BBEG at the end of that's like the intro, but something bad happens and they end up being like level 5 characters again, basically. But we've tried to give them a backstory that is epic. So, like, one of them is like a pirate captain in Luskan, or like one of the key like pirate captains in Luskan. One of them is like, but that's what we've gone to from their very early days circus sort of background. So it's been quite fun. So you'll hit that on Saturday, and a sort of intro to the season. So a bit of a session 0, and then week after we have episode 1 of the actual plays. So that'll be quite fun.
How exciting! New year, new us.
Exactly.
D campaign.
Yes, exactly. And then and at some point a Strixhaven 4-parter at some point. What about you? What have you got going on, Fiona? How's Where?
What have I got? How's Where? As always, Where is doing very well. So yes, I run the What Am I Rolling podcast, which is a twice monthly RPG one-shot podcast. As always, it's doing very well. I can't remember the last time we recorded, so obviously time is an illusion, especially over Christmas and the New Year. It's all sort of wibbly wobbly at the best of times. But I would say if you are into RPGs, it will have finished the Kickstarter by now, but if you're into RPGs as well, if you're into mechs and mech games and stuff like that, but you're like, I can't be bothered with doing all these minis, there is a game we've played called Salvage Union, where you are basically, it's a bit like Borderlands, it's a bit like Mad Max, where you and your scrap mechs go and salvage things, and we had a lot of fun. That will be out on the podcast. We've also did it on someone's Twitch, which is now out, so if you want to see that, go for it. I highly would recommend supporting.
Who was the Twitch? Who was it on?
You're right. So it's a Drunken Storyteller on Twitch. It's my friend David. We've done a few RPGs for them before. But yes, Leyline Press, who've published Salvage Union. If you, this is where my nerdiness falls down a bit. If you like those books and those images of like like technical drawings of things, like the Millennium Falcon or something like that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a very similar thing. I can't remember what they're called now off the top of my head.
The Haynes
but,
manuals for cars is what I'm thinking of.
Haynes, that
Yeah.
is exactly
Yeah.
If you like a Haynes style of
Or
drawing,
like Dorley and
that's
Kindersley, DK as well. Is it?
yes, DK Haynes is the one I was thinking of. But
Yeah.
you're right. That sort of cool technical drawing style. That's what this book is pretty much
cool.
like. It's a gorgeous
I'll have to
book,
check
The
this out,
Salvage
yeah.
Union. Yeah, I'd recommend checking it out. So yeah, we did an actual play of that, so that's now out. It was really, really good, and I hopefully again, it's a bit tricky now because we don't know what's happening with lockdowns and stuff. But hopefully in January I will be part of Galactic Implosions, which is a sci-fi improv show, which is not only hopefully in person, but if not, it's definitely streamed online and in VR, where our crew is taking humans away from Earth, which has been sucked into a black hole, and I will be playing the part of the chat and basically talking to people in the chat. But I've also just been asked, could I be like a swing person, so someone in reserve. So if one of the cast members gets ill, I have to go into the theatre and put on and do some VR, essentially. Yeah, understudy as well.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
that'll be quite fun if it happens. So yeah.
Why aren't you the
And so that's all
main
I've done.
player though? Because to be fair, they're missing a trick there. To be honest, that's what I say. Give me their number and I'll talk to them.
Oh well.
Do you not know who you're dealing with here?
Do you not know who I am? I mean,
Exactly.
so but again, we will see, and I'm sure I will be publishing all about that when that comes out, because it will definitely happen in some sort of capacity. Whether or not it's in person is a different thing, but it'll be very exciting. So that's what I'm going to be up to, what I am up to, what I have been up to.
Awesome.
Delete as appropriate. Brilliant.
And then also Third Space Gaming.
I see. This is why I needed you, Hamilton. Sorry. So of course, how can I be remiss to say? So if you were like, I really like Strixhaven, I want to have a new book, a new RPG book, or want a bit of terrain. Well, Third Space Gaming, your local friendly game store in Burnley. You can get 10% off your first order if you type in the offer code DMBC into checkout, and DMBC, you got to do the flappy arms, and that's how you get the code. And yes, again, local game stores will obviously have any alt covers, and I'm sure they'll have plenty, so just go and have a check out, because the alt covers are very pretty, and
They are.
support local games, so all
Should
good.
do 100%. That's
Right.
really great.
Is that everything?
I think that is everything. We're supported by D&D Beyond. That's where we've been looking at the book, so you should always go there. They are amazing, obviously. If you didn't already know how good they were. And I mean, making all our characters for the Dragon's Law Season 3, it's just like so good, because it's just the ability to have all the things there and everyone just be like, go on there. Oh, there you go. There's my phone going again. Classic. But yes, go check out DM's Book Club. DM's Book Club, go check out D&D Beyond. And
with
anyway,
that, friends,
with that, there is only one thing to say, but I love you.
See you on the flip side. Oh,
I'd forgotten about it. See you on the flip side. Take care.
see you on the flip side. Love you. Bye.